Hello and welcome to today's episode number 11 of the Human Condition Podcast. I'm your host, American Council on Exercise Certified Personal Trainer, Kiri Jones. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing posture, and I'm going to be weighing in my thoughts on personal trainers in the healthcare continuum after reading the book Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. I feel like I'm under a tremendous amount of pressure to get this podcast done. Like first time go, because we are in the process with our child of adjusting nap times, and it is very confusing. If you have kids, you've gone through this stage, you completely understand. And if you don't have kids, it's very confusing. Kids are tired and they're not tired, and then they are tired but they don't want to be tired. It's just, especially when they're at the age where they can't really communicate very well. Anyway, so the blog post that posted last week was titled Standing Tall, Why Posture is Important and How You Can Assess at Home. Posture it's more than just like, if you think about the trope, like, fix your posture, you look like a slouch. Or even like I've seen pictures, like cartoons that were depicting like the evolution of monkey to man, and then it continues on past that. Like man was the upright posture. It continues on past that to like back towards monkey, because we're slowly as a population starting to have that more hunched forward posture again. Poor posture can lead to muscular imbalances in the body, pain, and it even has the cascading effect of affecting other parts of your body. So, for instance, like people commonly have, it's like one of the common postural misalignments is the hunched forward shoulders, and that's because we're in a more technological era, and our bodies tend to adapt to what it is that we do every day in order to, help facilitate it or make it easier on us. And, we're in the part of the adaptation process where it's still not good for us. And hopefully we can go backwards on this. Instead of adapting more towards being hunched around a screen, we can adapt more towards backwards, towards that more upright posture. But when people have that like hunched forward posture, it's caused by, physically, it's caused by tight muscles in the chest and weak muscles in the back. And you might be thinking, well, that doesn't make sense because my chest doesn't hurt, but my back hurts really bad. So when I say tight muscles in the chest, I mean they are flexed tight. They are contracted. And when I say weak muscles in the back, those are pulled to their ends. So they are at the very ends. They are as tight as they can be in non-contracted form. What that leads to is upper back pain. Like upper back pain, sometimes headaches, tension headaches, and earlier I said it can cause this cascading effect. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I have not great posture, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but part of the effect of having poor posture and a hunched forward posture is that my chest muscles are very tight. And so what that ended up leading to was a misalignment in my shoulder sockets. So my chest is so tight and my back muscles and the muscles that attach to my deltoid muscles are so weak that it is pulling the ball of my shoulder joint forward in the socket, which what ends up happening is if I overuse it, the tendon becomes inflamed and it is extremely painful. So if I overuse it or use it in the wrong way, I then cannot use it for a day or two after the fact until the inflammation goes back down. And so I know a lot of people in society have these types of like really acute pains that cause a delay or an effect on their daily life. And, that's not just shoulders, it's, knees, ankles, hips, back, whatever. Like, as I said, and it's not always true. Like, it's not always the case that it is because of posture that you have these pains. Sometimes it is because you moved incorrectly, which movement is something that we can get into at a later time. But in the interest of keeping on topic, um, if you have poor posture, it can cause you to become injured, but you can also just acutely become injured from moving just slightly the wrong way, or the very obvious, like you got your leg crushed by a giant rock. So, um, let's talk about another common misalignment, and that is anterior or posterior pelvic tilts. And the way that it's been described to me, and the way that makes sense, and the way that I like to describe it to other people, is your pelvis is like a bowl of soup. And you have your soup bowl is either very level, keeping the soup in, or you have a forward tilt or a backward tilt. So are you spilling the soup out of the front of your bowl, or are you spilling the soup out of the back of your bowl? And this is caused, by like your lower back muscles, your abdominals, hip flexors, hamstrings, in glutes. And depending on whether or not you are completely in alignment muscularly or whether you're out of alignment, will determine whether or not you have this forward or backward tilt of your pelvis. And another easy way to see it visually is maybe if you're tilted forward, you're going to have this like round. Sorry, let's do it this way for the people that are watching. Your spine is going to round inward in a type of lordosis. And if it is backwards, you're going to stand with a like, we'll call it a hip forward posture. And those are just, that and the hunched forward are just two very common types of misalignments that occur. But you can even have misalignments or imbalances that were caused by a previous injury. And that's something that is well understood in medical senses, but not well understood for like people just living their daily lives. Like maybe you sprained your ankle pretty badly in high school, and then you had spent a certain amount of time rehabilitating that ankle, and therefore you had relied on the other ankle more than usual. And without proper rehabilitation or without the knowledge of understanding these overcompensations, what ends up happening over time is you just tend to favor that ankle that favor in a poor way, the ankle that was injured. And so that will lead to an imbalance between both of your ankles, which if you think about everything that's above the ankle, now you have one knee that's facing slightly the wrong direction, and that's putting strain on your hip, which is also putting strain on your pelvis tilt either to the left or the right, and then now your spine's out of alignment. You see what I'm saying? Like there's a cascading effect of what occurs when you have these imbalances. And I understand that trying to address these things seems like a lot, and it can seem like expensive in terms of like, oh great, now I have to go to a doctor or a physical therapist or a certified personal trainer who is trained in postural assessments and have this done, and that's money and whatever. I'll get to that in just a minute. But let's talk about the long-term effects. And like I said, you can have an acute injury, you can have an acute moment of pain, you can have temporary misalignment, but over the span of time, if this is not addressed, it will cause misalignments in other areas of the body, as I've stated before. And then you have the effect through aging, if it's not addressed, of joint degradation, decreased flexibility and mobility. And then you end up with chronic pain issues, which is, daily pain or more, almost daily pain. And all of that is to say that it will decrease your quality of life. And I think in the last episode, I talked about health span versus lifespan. And that is definitely something that has been coming up more and more often in research, in health studies, and in the books that I've been reading. And so what you don't want to do is ignore these postural and muscular imbalances, because you don't want to then get worse and worse as you age. And I like to think about it like this: I am on a mission to impact my health in such a way that I will be able to play with my grandkids. And it's like a very strong, and it's getting stronger kind of pull to what it is that I want to do. But if you don't have kids, or you don't plan on having kids or grandkids, then, what do you want to do when you retire? Like, do you want to be a person that is an avid hiker or traveler, or, you know, do you like to play sports? Like anything like that. The more chronic pain that you're in, and the more degraded your joints are, and the more you lose mobility and flexibility, the less likely those options are going to be for you. So it is I don't want to call it a pillar, because I'm still trying to really formulate a newer opinion on health and fitness for me, because, you know, I'm starting to go down the rabbit hole of educational topics and research and all these things because it interests me. I enjoy thinking of the body as this biological machine where everybody has these presets on what is optimal for them. And so in normal situations outside of people who have like nerd brains like I do, it's not, we don't think about the whole picture. We just know that we should be moving a certain amount and we should be eating a certain way. And if we do these things, then it will lead to this outcome. But I'm going to digress, because I'll go off on a tangent in a minute. Let's back up to when I was talking about the accessibility of postural assessments. And I want to caveat what I'm about to say by saying that this is a good starting point for you. This should not be the be all end all, especially if you have really major misalignments or you're in a lot of chronic pain. If you're in pain that has to be managed by medication due to an injury in your body or a misalignment, then this will be a good starting point for you if you are not already seeking medical attention for this. You should always, I'm going to say the standard thing that you're supposed to say is consult with your physician, consult with your doctor. If you feel like you see an issue, then address it with your healthcare provider. There are ways that you can kind of see or start to see if you have posture issues at home. And they're, I would say, inexpensive or free, because most of the things I'm about to say you probably already have at home. So what you're going to want is your phone or a camera, a mirror, and then an object that can show you like a straight up and down. And that can be a plumb line, which is basically just a line with a heavy object on the bottom that you suspend from the ceiling, because due to gravity, it will automatically be straight up and down, vertical. Or you can use an object that is relatively straight, or normally considered as straight, like a broom handle or a piece of plastic PVC pipe. The thicker variety, because the thinner ones tend to be pretty flimsy. What you want to do is wear tight-fitting clothing or minimal. I mean, this is for you by yourself. You could wear minimal clothing if you wanted to. Anything that you can use that will help you see your body and your body's landmarks. Now, I'm going to explain the process, but I won't explain the actual the landmarks, like specifically what you're looking for, where the alignment should be. That's in the blog. And if you're one of those people that doesn't want to read the blog and you'd rather just ask me about it, I will answer you. But for the sake of recording this podcast, I'm waving my hand in front of the camera for some reason. For the sake of recording this podcast, I don't want to overcomplicate it. This is not my podcasts are not to-do lists. This is not the way that you're supposed to live your life. So you don't have to like stop and like write things down and be like, oh, I should do this when I get home. It's just education. So anyway, now that you have your mirror, your phone, and a straight up and down object, whether it is the broom handle, PVC pipe, plumb line, whatever, view yourself in front of the mirror, take pictures and record videos, and notice when something seems out of alignment. Like if your pelvis is tilted lower on one side than the other, if one of your shoulders is closer to your ear than the other, if you're standing to the side and you realize that you have this lordosis in your back, or kyphosis, which is when your upper spine sticks outward. That's typically what happens with hunched shoulders. If your head is tilted to one side, if it's back farther or forward farther than it's supposed to be, if one of your feet is, or both of your feet are outward or inward instead of straight on. And I understand that this comes with I don't remember what the principle is called. It's basically like when you're being watched, you tend to perform better. It may take a few times for you to get comfortable enough in front of the camera that you're not purposefully trying to stand with better posture. You just try to relax as much as you can. Think about how you just normally stand, like if you were standing in the kitchen or, at work, whatever. Do your very best to relax so that you can have a better idea of what your natural standing posture is so that you can start to address these things. There are tons of free resources on the internet. And I'm not saying trust them all, but look for resources that are created by trained, certified personal trainers, physical therapists. They make videos and they put them online about addressing certain postural things. I don't know. There's a lot, and I like to try to encourage people to seek these free resources as much as possible because it's not always accessible to everybody and people don't always know that it exists. So it's important to just keep driving that point home. Like, look for the free resources before you start paying to try to address these issues. If you cannot address these issues on your own, or you don't trust yourself to address these issues on your own, then maybe seek out some professional help. But yeah, that is the blog post about posture. I have poor posture. I need to correct my posture so badly. I have chronic back pain, which, I'm also getting older, so it's a joke of mine. And I have to stop making so many like over exaggerated dramatic noises when I stand up or like get out of a chair, because my child is starting to make these noises when standing or sitting or doing anything, which I think is funny, but I'd rather her learn the alphabet. So anyway, the next topic that I want to talk about is trainers in the healthcare continuum, personal trainers in the healthcare continuum, and specifically certified personal trainers in the healthcare continuum. It is starting to become, I don't know if it's called a movement, but there is a kind of a push to start including certified personal trainers in the healthcare continuum. And I know that ACE has a course about working with medical professionals. I'm sure that other well-known organizations have these courses as well. But I agree that personal trainers should be involved in the healthcare continuum, because I just got done reading Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia, and he talks about his thoughts on medicine 2.0, which is current medicine, to medicine 3.0, and how there are a lot of things that we wait to address currently until they are a problem, in which case they've already been a problem brewing for many years prior to that. And so his argument is that we try to get ahead of these things before they become a problem, because as a society, we are getting sicker and sicker. And I think that if trainers worked directly with doctors, there would be a way to address current issues or assist patients in getting ahead of certain issues that they may be predisposed to. Like maybe they have a family history of metabolic conditions or heart attacks or stroke. Or I'm not saying that personal trainers are like going to be heroes that are going to save the day, but like what physical exercise can do and what proper education can do is help people address these issues before they become a problem and help them kind of try to do their best to battle against these things. And so it will be giving them their best shot to avoid these issues if they feel so inclined to avoid them, because I know not everybody does. With that being said, as somebody who has taken a certified personal trainer course, while it does a very good job at giving you the overview of the entire body and body systems, like skeletal, your digestive system, endocrine, all that stuff, I feel like if you were to put me in a healthcare setting, I would want to know more about biology and physiology in order to help healthcare providers address certain issues, because everybody is different. There is a level of individualization that is needed for a personalized approach to somebody's health. We are all genetically different. We all have different percentages of fast twitch, slow twitch muscle fibers. We all have different capacities to build muscle or build endurance or build up our VO2 max. And so, and this is just my opinion, I'm sure other people agree. I need to know more about how the body works, about physiology, about pathophysiology, in order to give somebody their best chance, because generalizing only helps the population so much. But if you can start to put personal trainers with this advanced knowledge into the healthcare continuum, I think we can start to chip away at these climbing epidemics of metabolic conditions and heart conditions, and in some cases neurodegenerative conditions, because I've been learning, I'm not fully learned up on it yet, but I've been learning about neurodegenerative conditions and exercise and nutrition and how these things can all play a part in helping with our cognitive function, or even staving off things like certain dementias as you age. And I know that is a fear of a lot of people, is getting old and having some form of dementia. So I'm going to be continuing to learn more about that. I am seeking the knowledge myself of this biology, advanced biology, physiology concepts, so that I can start, basically just practice what I preach in terms of being able to individualize things and help people out. I would hope that at some point I could utilize this knowledge in a way that was very beneficial to everybody. And I don't really know where we're at in terms of the adding personal trainers to the healthcare continuum. I don't know if this is like doctor specific. I don't really know how you would go about figuring that out, but that might be an avenue that I start to exercise in terms of like networking with different healthcare providers in the area, see their willingness. And so with that being said, I have excuse me, I have started gearing my continuing education credits with the American Council on Exercise for your certified personal trainer certification. Every 2 years you have to complete a certain amount of continuing education credits in order to keep your certification valid. And so I have been seeking out courses that are more related to uh, neurology, biology, physiology, instead of like, I mean, there's a lot. Don't get me wrong. I've taken a lot of good courses on this before. There's courses on, using TRX bands in your programming or kettlebells. I have the other specializations like functional training and nutrition, but I want to start exploring these avenues, um, because I think that's really what it is. It's like educating people on what's important, and we're starting to get better about providing the education, but now we have to make it digestible and accessible to everybody. We have to start pushing the content out there, otherwise it's never going to get seen, and I feel like it's very niche at this point. Like, I found the book Outlive by Dr. Peter Thiel because I was looking for it. Same with Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. I was looking for this book. And so not everybody knows that these are books to look for, or that this content exists. So again, I'm going to try to practice what I preach and try to really, really educate myself on biology and physiology. I mean, it's to the point where I have considered getting a bachelor's in biomedical science. And I'm still entertaining that idea, but it is not the right time to go to school right now, for me personally. So hopefully in the future, but for the time being, like I said, there are certain courses available that I can take for continuing education credit. So that's what I'm going to do. And well, that was it. That's what I wanted to talk about. I talked about it a little longer than I intended to, which is my usual. I mean, I don't know if people even listen to this podcast from start to finish. I mean, I do know that they don't. But anyway, yeah, that's the podcast. This was episode number 11. I got nothing else to say. So until next time.